Governor said, I will veto that because 10% cut across the board sounds too reasonable. Because that gives too many people a reason not to vote for the tax increase. What she wants is cuts to education, large cuts to education. In fact, she wanted to eliminate all funding for charter schools if the tax doesn't pass. Now, I don't think she's an opponent of charter schools, although that sounds like it. I think the strategy is the gun to the head. It's the Oregon model. Basically, you're going to cut public safety, you're going to cut education if you don't pass this. And so the consequences are going to be so terrible and so unacceptable that you have no choice. That's the reason why you'll constantly hear in the news, police and fire are always the first thing that ever get cut in a municipality. You know, it's because if we said we're going to cut middle-level managers, nobody would care. But you cut police and fire, that gets everybody, that lights everybody's hair on fire, and of course we can't do that. Now, in reality, for municipalities, police is generally the largest item that they spend money on. It is generally their largest expenditure, so anytime you have large budget cuts, you're going to have some impact to police and fire. But it's always the lead item of first responders and so on. So that's the game that's going on right now. The governor wants draconian cuts to the public's favorite programs to force them to support the tax increase. And then the legislature is trying to say, no, we just want to do something simple across the board. What you're going to end up is a blend. I don't know what that blend's going to look like. That's what they're negotiating right now on the floor at the legislature. So again, I don't think it's going to pass. Yes, sir.
What's your view on the Second Amendment?
I am an ardent supporter of the Second Amendment. I am A+ rated by the NRA every time. Every year I was in the legislature. I was endorsed every time I ran by the NRA. I have a small arsenal at home. Actually, I enjoy. Well, just to give you an idea, my dad gave me a Remington 870 for my birthday. I mean, that gives you an idea. I love, I can't shoot the people I really want to shoot, so I shoot paper targets. So that's a stress reliever for me. So yeah, you won't find a bigger Second Amendment supporter. In fact, one of my favorite t-shirts I saw the other day was, I carry a gun because a cop is too heavy. So, yes, sir.
I noticed you use some terms like culture and philosophy. I'm very concerned about that because it seems to me that philosophy of government in general is to spend more than they make.
And that's got to change.
And I know it's hard to get elected by promising people 12 sweat and tears, so much, it seems like so much is measured in terms of, well, we threw this much money at it, so we must really care. And my question is this: do you think it's possible to cut bureaucracy? Oh, absolutely. My office, the Treasurer's office, we are running on 57% of our 1991 appropriation. I mean, try doing that, and not just, you go to any agency, most of the agencies that are screaming the most right now, they're at their 08 budget. Like, that would be a massive increase for our agency. I mean, that'd be a 30% increase to our budget if you went to 08. Try running on what you had in 91, or half of what you had on 91. In fact, we're even going to get hit again in this next cycle. So yes, you can do that, and you can do it by changing the people that you hire. I restaffed the Treasury. My predecessor pled guilty and resigned. It was a disaster. So I came in an office, it was complete disarray, morale was terrible, and we went in and specifically rehired, and we got some people in. I've got staff, I get salaried state employees coming in on Saturdays on their own just to catch up on work when things get busy. They're not required, they're not asked, they're not paid to do so, they just do it on their own. That's that's the type of quality of people that you can get. There are some good people out there. There's a lot of dead weight, and it gets into how you measure success. Again, it comes back to the statistics that you track. If you define success by how much you're spending on something, that's a battle you're never going to win. I come from the financial world. If I spend $100,000 on something, invest $100,000, and I get back 101, I'm not putting another $100,000 in that investment.
You put 100,000 into an investment and you get 200,000 back. That's the investment I'm putting $2 billion in. And that's the one you're putting a ton of money into. I mean, that's the same type of thing that we've got to change the way government, you're exactly right, has been defining success by how much money we're throwing at it, not the end result, not what we're getting out on the other end. Once you start, and that's the old HP motto, what gets measured gets done. Government hasn't measured these types of metrics before. They haven't followed this type of data. I mean, frankly, they haven't really followed anything. I mean, when I get to the treasurer's office, no one could remember the last time they had balanced the checkbook to the bank, ever, in state history. No one had ever forecast cash flow going forward daily. I mean, it's a standard operation for even small to mid-sized businesses, much less a $30 billion operation. I mean, these are just the fundamentals that we take for granted, or at least I took for granted in the private sector, have not been applied on government. And they could get away with it because they always had lots of money. And that's the type of thing, I think the biggest mistake that Governor Brewer made was when she came in, she kept the staff from the previous administration. And you've got to bring in some people. If you look at any elected official, the only thing, you talk about what do you need in an elected official? And the one thing you absolutely have to have an elected official, they don't have to know everything. You cannot know everything. What you have to have is a good BS detector. Because there are a lot of people down at the government and lobbyists and special interests, they're going to try to make you think that the wind is blowing in a different direction than it is. They're trying to blow smoke. You may have thought that BS stood for something else, didn't you? They're always trying to blow smoke your way. You've got to be able to see through that into what's really going on. That's the core, most important role of any elected official. And then on top of that, don't just look at that person, but who do they surround themselves with? What are the type of people that are going to be the filters for their information? Are they lobbyists working for the payday loan industry, or working for this or that special interest? Or, I mean, what are the filters that are going to be around them? Because that's how they're going to be making decisions. Yes?
Can I play a little bit of the devil's advocate?
Sure.
Not to assign blame, but there has been some criticism that while you were in the legislature, that you had voted for Napolitano's budget 3 out of 4 times. I just thought I'd give you an opportunity to.
Yeah, that's the latest. The governor put out this little thing with me dancing with Napolitano as if we were best friends. I thought that was hilarious. It couldn't be farther from the truth. First of all, when I was in the legislature, I did vote for only 3 of the 6 budget. I think it was 6 budgets that I was there for. I only voted for 3 of them. I only voted for the 3 budgets that were actually balanced and sustainable. Every budget that I voted for was sustainable. We could have maintained our spending at the levels that I voted for had they not continued to increase them the last couple of years during the recession. The thing that broke the state was increasing your budget when revenues are dropping. If they had simply frozen spending, we would have been fine.
Now, and that brings us to the second question. We're told that the legislatures, our representatives of the state, only have control of about 30% of the total state budget.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's not actually true, but yes.
Okay, well, that's what we've been told by our current representatives, or just prior representatives. So my question is if that is true, because you have, 70% or whatever it is.
It's
and
about
voter-initiated funding or voter guaranteed funding. How can you reasonably expect to make these across the board cuts fairly without impacting just that 30%?
Well, first of all, it's about 30% that is voter protected. Only about 30% of the budget is actually locked in through voter initiative. 30% of the budget is set by formulas. Now, those are not voter protected, but they are very difficult to change. When I say formula, what do we mean by that? Well, for every student, the state spends X per student. So if another student shows up, you spend automatically that additional dollar, or for every prisoner, or for every fill in the blank. These are very difficult things to change the formula.